Yashoda Nandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatiravanachari Yamunatiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradhari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradhari Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe Jaya Radha Kalachandji Radha Kalachandji Radhe Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Shri Radha Madhava Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya All together, Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudidayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Ashtapayeshu bhajreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. My regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam, my rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. And loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Hi. So today we are reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 9, and I believe it's 14 through 18. Does anyone know for sure? So, wanted to preface this by praying for everyone's mercy. Everyone is my senior, and I think when I give class, I'm not very Krishna conscious. But how do you become Krishna conscious? By reading the Srimad Bhagavatam, by speaking on the Srimad Bhagavatam. And I was talking to Nanda Brajru, and I was like, I think you should take me off the schedule for some time so that I can, get more Krishna conscious or things like that. And part of that is the false ego. The false ego is saying, oh, it's about me. But it's about the Srimad Bhagavatam. So I benefit from reading the Srimad Bhagavatam, and I benefit from going through these verses together just as much as the audience does. And this is for all of our purification. So try. Thank you for the opportunity. Do you have anyone know which text we're doing? 14 through 18. Okay. I was thinking, I don't have much to present, so maybe we could do it Mukunda Datta Prabhu Mahatma Prabhu style and just go through every verse and every purport and just churn it together. Does anyone have a mic? If not. So we'll start with the Sanskrit for text 14. Tadya chamanya masuras chahatas trayadya. Tadya chamanya masuras chayatas trayadya. Modyata sadarapi vikshita sarpa hratya. Lokascha nirvitumita pratiyanti sarve. Rupam nirsingha vibhayaya janas smaranti. Chant. Tadya chamanyum asuras chahatas tvayadya. Modyata sadurapi vikshita sarpahatya. Lokascha nivritimita pratiyanti sarve. Rupam nirsingha vibhayaya jana smaranti. Tatya chamanyum asarascha hatastvadhyadya. Nita sadurapi vichika sarpahatya. Patiyanti sarve. Rupam nirsingha vibhayaya janas smaranti. Yachamanyam Asyascha Hayachalaya. Odyata Sadhurapi Vrishchika Sarpahatya. Lokascha Nivritimita Pratiyanti Sarve. Rupam Nursingha Vibhayaya Janasmaranti. Modeta Sadhurapi Vichika Sarpahatya. Lokascha Nivritimita Pratiyanti Sarve. Rupam Nursingha Vibhayaya Janasmaranti. Oh, I think real quick we can look over, and does anyone recognize any words? Oh, Rupam Nursingha. Another Tosi Saki pointed out. Modeta Sadhu Api Vichika Sarpa Hatya. Do you know? Yeah. Sarpa Hatya. Killing of snakes. Sadhu. Huh? Vrishchika is scorpion. Wow. Learn something new every day. Yeah. And then we have Nrsinga Rupa. Yeah. Synonyms altogether. Tat, therefore, Yacha, kindly give up. Manyum, your anger. Asura, my father. Hiranyakashipu, my great demon. Cha, also. Hata, killed. Tvaya, by you. Adya, today. Modita, take pleasure. Sadhu api, even a saintly person. Vrishchika sarpa hatya, by killing a snake or a scorpion. Loka, all the planets. Cha, indeed. Nivritim, pleasure. Ita, have achieved. Pratiyanti, are waiting for pacification of your anger. Sarve, all of them. Rupam, this form. Nrsimha, Lord Nrsingadev. Vibhayaya, for mitigating their fear. Jana, all the people of the universe. Smaranti, will remember. Translation. May Lord Nrsingadev please therefore cease your anger. My Lord Nrsingadev, please therefore cease your anger, now that my father, the great demon Hiranyakashipu, has been killed. Since even saintly persons take pleasure in the killing of a scorpion or a snake, all the worlds have achieved great satisfaction because of the death of this demon. Now they are confident of their happiness, and they will always remember your auspicious incarnation in order to be free from fear. Alright, so just to recap what we've been talking about, Lord Nrsingadev has killed Hiranyakashipu, and now he's extremely angry. So all the demigods had come, but they were also afraid of coming to pacify Lord Nrsingadev. In Brahma, Shiva, Lakshmi, Srila Prabhupada in the previous purports, he makes a big emphasis that even the goddess of fortune, she had never seen this form before. So she was afraid. She couldn't come up and pacify Lord Nrsingadev. So Lord Brahma and the other demigods, they all pushed Prahlad Maharaj in front. So Prahlad, you go satisfy Lord Nrsingadev. And so what does Prahlad Maharaj say? Does anyone remember what we talked about with Mukunda Datta Prabhu? He says, I am not a very intelligent person. I'm born of a demon. And I practically have demon blood running through my veins. So who am I to speak? Who am I to glorify you, Lord Nrsingadev? And the point is made that brahmanas who don't have bhakti, they may speak very nicely, they may speak nice things. But Srila Prabhupada added his little commentary, but they cannot purify even themselves. So we're hearing about Prahlad Maharaj, and though he had this birth, he was able to pacify Lord Nrsingadev. So this is him now actually saying, therefore please cease your anger. So, translation, purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Read the purport.
The most important point in this verse is that although saintly persons never desire the killing of any living entity, they take pleasure in the killing of envious living entities like snakes and scorpions. Hiranyakashipu was killed because he was worse than a snake or a scorpio, and therefore everyone was happy. Now there was no need for the Lord to be angry. The devotees can always remember the form of Nrsimhadev when they are in danger. And therefore the appearance of Nrsimhadev was not at all inauspicious. The Lord's appearance is always worshipable and auspicious for all the saint person and devotees.
Prabhupada Ki Jai. So there's a few themes here. This is a very famous verse. Does anyone remember Srila Prabhupada's story with this? I can share it on the mic. I was listening to Srila Prabhupada's lecture on this verse, and he said, one time I was at my Guru Maharaj's ashram, and the devotees ran up and they said, there's a snake in the, I think it was like the courtyard or something. And so Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, he said, kill it immediately. Oh, this mic is sinking. Maybe I should just hold it. Yeah, I can just hold it. So he said, kill the snake immediately. And Srila Prabhupada, he didn't understand. But he said, I think he said a few years later, he read this verse. He said, then I was reading Srimad Bhagavatam and I read this verse, that even the saintly persons take pleasure in the killing of a scorpion or a snake. In all the worlds have achieved satisfaction because of the death of this demon. Does anyone recall a demon that Srila Prabhupada was happy? Mr. Nair, yes. So, even in Lord Chaitanya's movement, there are still some personalities who, generally Lord Chaitanya's movement, we say, the weapons that Lord Chaitanya has brought are his beauty and the holy name. This beautiful Sankirtan movement. And so Lord Chaitanya, he kills the demons, but he kills the demons in their hearts. But in some exceptions, like in the case of Mr. Nair, sometimes we pray that they quickly attain Krishna's lotus feet by exiting their body. This one devotee told me, he said, there's this one envious person who's stopping our preaching. May he quickly attain Krishna's lotus feet. Anyways, so he was joking, of course, but Srila Prabhupada was saying in the lecture that there's always an exception to the rule. So in this case, the rule is, we should never kill. We should never harm any living entities, any animals. But he said there's always an exception. So with these beings who are perpetually envious, like the snakes and the scorpions, then it is permitted that you can kill them. Why? Because they become elevated to a higher birth. They're actually in a very low birth, a low condition, and when they are freed from that body, they progress upwards. So, anyways, I wouldn't instruct that we all go hunt snakes now. It's a little excessive. Even though, does anyone know a story of a sage who did have a vendetta against all the snakes? Jaimini Rishi, yes? The son of Maharaj Parikshit. No. Is that right? I believe that's right. Janamejai, yes, thank you. Yeah, he did a fire yagya. And this fire yagya, this big fire, there's this amazing Bhagavatam painting of all these snakes flying into the fire. So this fire yagya, it dragged all the snakes from all over the planet to kill the snakes. because there was a snake bird who was going to kill his father. So, yeah, I believe this was before or after. It was after. Okay, thank you for clarifying. I'm not sure who that is. Thank you. Oh, it's nothing Govinda Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah, Takshaka. Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm. Yeah, thank you. So Prabhu was sharing how after Maharaj Parikshit had uh, left his body from the snake bird, then Janamejai, he was the king now, and he got his education, and he did the Sarpa Yagya to burn all the snakes in the world, yet he was stopped because it was unnecessary. And just because one snake had bitten your father, you shouldn't burn all the snakes in the world. So it's actually similar to what we're hearing now, is that anger, it has a purpose to be fulfilled. There should always be a purpose to our anger. And so Nrsingadev, he had a purpose to his anger, to kill the demon Hiranyakashipu. But when that was no longer serving its purpose, Prahlad Maharaj said, okay, it's time to give up this anger. So we see from Srila Prabhupada's example very vividly, he would use anger as a tool, not be used by anger. It's described that with disciples, he would chastise them so severely sometimes. And then, they leave the room, and then they come back, and it's like that never even happened. The anger is gone. So it's not an anger out of false ego, an anger out of pride, an anger out of resentment, but it's an anger for education. It's an anger for improvement of the other person. I'm remembering, yeah, I was in Kusum Sarovar, and there's this very nice devotee there. And she described how one time with her guru, she had made this mistake, and he said, I do not want to see your face. Do not show me your face again. And so then she had a brown paper bag over her head. And, well, first of all, she was crying and crying and crying, but she still had to do her service. So she came with this brown paper bag. I think she had holes cut out over the eyes, and she continued her service. But his anger was subsided. So yeah, we should take inspiration from this, that we have to use our anger sometimes for proper causes. Does anyone have examples of, I believe there's a few examples of when we should use anger in the Lord's service. Perhaps the nectar of instruction. Like Hanuman burnt Lanka. Anyone remember? I think there were three examples. Lord Chaitanya, what did he do? Yes, he raised his chakra to protect Lord Nityananda, and there's one more. Correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it was Arjuna who used anger to fight on the battlefield. You can't fight without anger. So, yeah, all three of those were devotees engaged in the Lord's service. So our anger should be used to protect the devotees, protect the deities, protect Krishna in some sense. Even though Krishna is our protector, sometimes he gives us the well, not us as in like literally us, but gives the devotees a sense of protectiveness over him. Mother Yashoda praying to Lord Nrsingadev, as we heard from Mukundadatta Prabhu. And also to protect the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, to protect Dharma, we can use our anger. I'm thinking also, we have this example of Dhruva Maharaj and his relationship with anger. So his brother was killed by the Yakshas, and so Dhruva Maharaj, I think it's one of the most epic parts of the Bhagavatam. Dhruva Maharaj, he is so upset. Actually, because of his stepmother's offense to Dhruva Maharaj, she had lost her son and her own life in the, I think it was a forest fire the Yakshas had done. Anyways, so he even knew that it was coming. It was somehow prophesized to him, but he was so angry when his stepbrother and his stepmother had been killed by the Yakshas. So he goes on a chariot, and this is like a one-man army, Dhruva Maharaj. He's firing these volleys of arrows, and he's killing hundreds, thousands of them. And they have these illusions where pus and blood and all these horrible things are raining from the sky. And if you look at the picture in the Bhagavatam, there's these snakes breathing fire and these giant lions in the sky and these gigantic waves. So it looked like destruction was from all sides for Dhruva Maharaj. And then he remembers the instructions of the Brahmanas. The Brahmanas tell him to remember Narayan. And so with that potency, he dispelled the illusions. But his anger was out of control. So the Brahmanas had to correct him. Actually, it might have been Lord Brahma. No? I think Lord Brahma corrected someone else. Maybe, yeah. You can't hear me? Okay, sorry. Yeah, so he was corrected that his anger went too far. And then also, another example is Maharaj Prithu. When Indra kept intercepting the horse sacrifice, he was doing his dharma. He was going to kill this offender. But every time Indra would deviate the religious principles more, he would dress up as a sannyasi and steal the horse. And so this was hurting the planet so much to introduce these deviant philosophies, deviant religions where people would dress up as sannyasis and pretend to be renounced. So Brahma said, just let him go. 99 horses is enough. You don't have to get the 100. So when his anger started to contradict with Dharma, even though it may have appeared to be for Dharma, once it wasn't, it was time to cease the anger. So, yes, this is instructive for us. So we can go to the next verse. I guess we can chant them all just for the benefit. We can chant it all together. Naham biprem yajita teti bhayanakshya jivakya necha bhutkuti rabhaso gradam strat antrasrajat kshajata keshara shankakarnam nirhridada pita digibhad aribhin nakagrat. Sorry. All right. Can someone please read the translation?
My Lord, who are never conquered by anyone, I am certainly not afraid of your ferocious mouth and tongue, your eyes bright like the sun, or your frowning eyebrows. I do not fear your sharp pinching teeth, your garland of intestines, your mane soaked with blood, or your high wedge-like ears. Nor do I feel your tumultuous roaring, which makes elephants flee to distant places, or your nails, which are meant to kill your enemies.
Lord Narasimhadev's fierce appearance was certainly most dangerous for the non-devotees. But for Prahlad Maharaj, such a fearful appearance was not at all disturbing. The lion is very fearsome for other animals, but its cubs are not at all afraid of the lion. The water of the sea is certainly dreadful for all living entities on the land, but within the sea, even the small fish is unafraid. Why? Because the small fish has taken shelter of the big ocean. It is said that although great elephants are taken away by the flooding waters of the river, the small fish swim opposite the current. Therefore, although the Lord sometimes assumes a fierce appearance to kill the Dushkratis, the devotees worship him. Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadish Hare. The devotees always takes pleasure in worshipping the Lord and glorifying the Lord in any form, either pleasing or fierce.
So this microphone is about to die. Jai. So yeah, this is, I really love this purport. It's one of my favorite purports I heard in this section. So Prahlad Maharaj, he's saying, I'm not afraid of this fearsome form you have. This reminds me of a pastime in Mayapur. There was this devotee, and he was to be worshipping Lord Nrsingadev in Mayapur. But he was so scared of Lord Nrsingadev. When he went to go worship him, he was really scared of him. And so then in a dream, Lord Nrsingadev had told him, don't be afraid of me. Just worship me, and I'll protect you, essentially. I remember when I first went to Mayapur, I went with some friends, and one of my friends said, "Oh, I was so scared when those doors opened. I must be a demon." But yeah, it's not exactly the case. But this form was so fearsome, even to all the demigods, even to Brahma and Lakshmi Devi. So yeah, his eyes bright like the sun, frowning eyebrows, sharp pinching teeth, garland of intestines, mane soaked with blood, high wedge-like ears, tumultuous roaring, which makes elephants flee to distant places, or your nails, which are meant to kill your enemies. And so a very important point is brought up here, that when one is surrendered to the Lord, he doesn't need to be afraid of the Lord. And Srila Prabhupada uses this analogy of water and elephants. So in the flooding waters of the river, a gigantic elephant can be swept away, can be drowned even in that water. And you think, oh, the elephant is like the most powerful creature on the land. So materially, we may be so powerful. We may be so, so much beauty, fame, strength, opulence, knowledge, renunciation. But without surrender to Krishna, we can get drowned by Maya. We can get swept away. Yet, if a little fish, even this big, little tiny fish, if the fish has surrendered, has taken shelter of the water, the fish can navigate. The fish can swim upstream even. So the devotee may be very small, yet they can navigate the waters of Krishna's internal and external energies. And another nice pastime with Lord Nrsingadev in Mayapur, they were carving him, and I believe it was Pankajangri Prabhu and Janani Bas Prabhu, they were saying, okay, so we need a Prahlad Maharaj deity to go with Nrsingadev. And so, but we want him to be to scale. We don't want him to be unproportionate to Lord Nrsingadev. And the sculptor, he said, if you want me to carve Prahlad Maharaj to scale, he's going to be the size of an atom. So They scrapped that idea. They made Prahlad Maharaj 1 foot tall. But that's how small Prahlad Maharaj is in comparison to Lord Nrsingadev. Of course, he was talking like size-wise. Lord Nrsingadev, I believe he's like 4.5 feet tall in Mayapur. So, yeah, we can be very small, but that is what gives us strength at the same time. Again, in Mayapur, I visited this devotee's house. Her name is Yashomati Mataji, and she likes to paint. So I see on her wall, there's this beautiful sunset painting with these 2 trees on either side. I think there might have been a peacock feather, or like maybe a painting of Krishna's lotus feet or something, and it says, "Embrace your insignificance." And I was like, wow, this is a very nice quote to have on your wall. Embrace your insignificance. So when we do that, when we embrace how insignificant we are and let Krishna, we take shelter of Krishna, then we can do so much more than the elephant who's drowning in the water. You know, we can go so much farther. We can swim all the way to the end of the river. Versus the elephant who says, I'm so significant, I can do it myself. The elephant drowns. So this is a lesson for us that we embrace our dependent position on Krishna, and then we become empowered through that. All right, I think we can go on to the next verse. Can someone give Prabhu a mic?
Yeah, okay. Hare Krishna. So that reminds me the elephant story you just brought up. In the Gajendra Moksha story, is that the one you were referring to? Or another one?
Srila Prabhupada in the purport just mentioned that elephants...
This elephant here, okay.
Yeah.
Even the Gajendra Moksha story, that reminded me the fight between the elephant and the Gajendra and the crocodile that lasted for 5,000 years. When Gajendra ultimately did the stuti of the Lord, and the Lord came after, because Gajendra called the Lord to rescue him. That's when the Lord did his thing with the Sudarshan Chakra, cut off the crocodile's neck, and Gajendra was released from the claws of the crocodile. So 5,000 years, that's because of the ego, essentially. So he could have saved himself by calling the Lord immediately as soon as it happened. And in fact, he tried himself, and also the other fellow elephants also tried to rescue him. They couldn't. They left him, and he himself was struggling. So, yeah, that reminded me of that. I want to share that. Thank you.
Wow. Imagine 5,000 years to
5,000
humble yourself.
Yeah, that's...
Jai. We can recite the verse together. Trastosmyaham kripana vatsaladu sahogra samsara chakra kadanadgra satam pranita badha svakarma bhirushattamakte nighimulam prita pavargas sharanam hyayase kadanu. Someone like to read the translation? Who has the microphone? Oh, Prabhu, would you like to read?
O most powerful, insurmountable Lord, who are kind to the fallen souls, I have been put into the association of demons as a result of my activities, and therefore I am very much afraid of my condition of life within this material world. When will that moment come when you will call me to the shelter of your lotus feet, which are the ultimate goal for liberation from conditional life?
Someone like to read the purport?
Being in the material world is certainly miserable, but certainly when one is put into the association of asuras or aesthetic men, it is intolerably so. One may ask why the living entity is put into the material world. Indeed, sometimes foolish people deride the Lord for having put them here. Actually, everyone is put into conditional life according to his karma. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj, representing all the other conditioned souls, admits that he was put into life among the asuras because of the results of his karma. The Lord is known as Kripa Vatsala because he is extremely kind to the conditioned souls. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, therefore the Lord appears whenever there are discrepancies in the execution of religious principles. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata tadat manam shri maya aham. The Lord is extremely anxious to deliver the conditioned souls, and therefore he instructs all of us to return home, back to Godhead. Sarva dharmam parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja. Thus Prahlad Maharaj expected that the Lord, by his kindness, would call him again to the shelter of his lotus feet. In other words, everyone should be eager to return home, back to Godhead, taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, and thus being fully trained in Krishna consciousness.
Right. We should be eager to return home, back to Godhead, taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, and thus being fully trained in Krishna consciousness. Yeah, so after Haladhar Maharaj's series of classes, they're all about the spiritual world and about Vrindavan. So this is where we should be eager to go, eager to return back to Radhakala Chanji and their eternal pastimes. I find it funny, Srila Prabhupada, he says that foolish people deride the Lord for having put them here. And I met one of these people. They were coming to the programs, and he said, currently I am very angry with God because he has made me exist. But as we're seeing here, this is our own choice to come to this material world. This is our own karma. There's no one else to blame. And similarly, there is a discussion about perhaps we came from the Brahmajyoti and then we just randomly got kind of incarnated in the material world. But we're seeing this impetus to accept that this is our own doing, why we're here in this material world. This is because of our own choice. It's because of our own free will. So now, because of that, it is part of our duty to get out, to take shelter of Krishna. There's no one else to blame for us being here, essentially. And so Prahlad Maharaj, he's very humbly saying, I have been put in the association of demons as a result of my activities. And therefore, I'm very much afraid of my condition of life within this material world. So, yeah, we're getting encouraged to zoom out. Say, okay, why was I born in this family? It's because of your previous activities. Why do I have to, sometimes people say, they have a difficult person in their life who, sometimes it's a difficult spouse, sometimes it's difficult parents, sometimes it's difficult this or that. Why have they entered my life? Sometimes, as we heard in the story of Maharaj Chitraketu, sometimes your enemy has come to give you some reaction. Sometimes they've come to give you a lesson. And until we learn the lesson we're meant to learn, we'll keep entering into these situations. Okay, so we don't have much time. Should we do discussion, or should we read the last two translations, or read the full last two verses? Huh? Okay, try. So we can recite this all together. Yasmat priya yoga samyoga janma shokagnina sakala yoni shudayamana dukha susadham tadapi dukam atadhiyaham Human pramami vadame tavadasya yogam. Prabhu, please read.
O Great One, O Supreme Lord, because of combination with pleasing and displeasing circumstances and because of separation from them, one is placed in a most regrettable position within heavenly or hellish planets, as if burning in a fire of lamentation. Although there are many remedies by which to get out of miserable life, any such remedies in the material world are more miserable than the miseries themselves. Therefore, I think that the only remedy is to engage in your service. Kindly instruct me in such service. Prahlad Maharaj aspired to engage in the service of the lotus feet of the Lord. After the death of his father, who was materially very opulent, Prahlad would have inherited his father's property, which extended throughout the world. But Prahlad Maharaj was not inclined to accept such material opulence, for whether one is in the heavenly planets or hellish planets, or is a rich or a poor man's son, material conditions are everywhere. Therefore, no condition of life is at all pleasing. If one wants the uncontaminated pleasure of blissful life, he must engage himself in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Material opulence may be somewhat pleasing for the time being, but to come to that temporary pleasing condition, one must work extremely hard. When a poor man is rich, he may be better situated, but to come to that position, he had to accept many miseries. The fact is that in material life, whether one is miserable or happy, both conditions are miserable. If one actually wants a happy, blissful life, one must become Krishna conscious and constantly engage in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. This is the real remedy. The entire world is under the illusion that people will be happy by advancing in materialistic measures to counteract the miseries of conditional life, but this attempt will never be successful. Humanity must be trained to engage in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. That is the purpose of the Krishna conscious movement. There can be no happiness in changing one's material conditions, for everywhere there is trouble and misery.
Try. Yeah. We had this get brought up the other day in class. Does anyone remember? This devotee was visiting from Toronto and she asked, I can't remember, we've had so many exalted speakers, I can't remember which one she asked, but she said, I feel closer to Krishna when I'm in distress. And the devotee who was speaking, he said, for us, our distress is distress, and our happiness is also distress. So, although Prahlad Maharaj could have had the whole universe, the whole world, the greatest kingdom, he said, this is just another form of distress. So, we can keep that in mind. What are we looking to satisfy us that will only make us more distressed? Although there are so many remedies, they are more miserable than the miseries themselves. This is, I feel like this might almost be a slogan for healthcare. Shiva Maharaj, he said, I take this pill, and this pill has these side effects, so I take these pills for those side effects, and I take pills for those pills side effects. He says, I have a whole cabinet full of pills now. So that's how it is in this material world, that we get some kind of ailment, and all of a sudden now we have to have so many more miserable things than the miseries themselves. So the only remedy is to engage in your service. Hari Bol. Kindly instruct me in such service. Final verse for today. Okay, I can just read this verse, save time. We can read it all together. Soham priyasya suhrida praradevataya lila katastava nursingha virincha gita anjastitayam anugram vipramukta durganite tada hamsa sangha. We're seeing, I wonder I wonder where Gita comes into play in this verse. Virincha Gita. Maybe Lord Nrsimhadev will sing. Virincha is Lord Brahma? Okay, Jai. Hamsa Sangha. Let's see what Prahlad Maharaj is going to say. O my Lord Nrsimhadev, by engaging in your transcendental loving service in the association of devotees who are liberated souls, Hamsas, I shall become completely uncontaminated by the association of the three modes of material nature and be able to chant the glories of your Lordship, who are so dear to me. I shall chant your glories following exactly in the footsteps of Lord Brahma and his disciplic succession. In this way, I shall undoubtedly be able to cross the ocean of nescience. Purport. A devotee's life and duty are very well explained herein. As soon as a devotee can chant the holy name and glories of the Supreme Lord, he certainly comes to the liberated position. Attachment for glorifying the Lord by hearing and chanting the holy name and activities of the Lord, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, certainly brings one to the position where material contamination is absent. One should chant the bona fide songs received from the disciplic succession. In Bhagavad Gita it is said that the chanting is powerful when one follows the disciplic succession. Evam parampara praptam imam rajar shayo vidu. Manufacturing many ways of chanting will never be effective. However, chanting the song or the narration left by the previous acharyas, Mahajano Yena Kata Sapanta, is extremely effective, and this process is very easy. Therefore, in this verse, Prahlad Maharaj uses the word anja, easily. Accepting the thoughts of exalted authorities through disciplic succession is certainly much easier than the method of mental speculation, by which one tries to invent some means to understand the absolute truth. The best process is to accept the instructions of the previous acharyas and follow them. Then God realization and self-realization become extremely easy. By following this easy method, one is liberated from the contamination of the material modes of nature, and thus one can certainly cross the ocean of nescience, in which there are many miserable conditions. By following in the footsteps of the great acharyas, one associates with the hamsas or paramahamsas, those who are completely freed from material contamination. Indeed, by following the instructions of the acharyas, one is always freed from all material contamination, and thus one's life becomes successful, for one reaches the goal of life. This material world is miserable, regardless of one's standard of life. Of this there is no doubt. Attempts to mitigate the miseries of material existence by material methods will never be successful. One must take to Krishna consciousness to become really happy. Otherwise, happiness is impossible. One might say that becoming advanced in spiritual life also involves tapasya, voluntary acceptance of some inconvenience. However, such inconvenience is not as dangerous as material attempts to mitigate all miseries. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So, to conclude, Srila Prabhupada is saying, Srila Prahlad Maharaj is saying, by engaging in the transcendental loving service, in your transcendental loving service, in the association of devotees who are liberated souls, I shall become completely uncontaminated by the association of the three modes of material nature and be able to chant the glories of your Lordship, who are so dear to me. I shall chant your glories following exactly in the footsteps of Lord Brahma and his disciplic succession. In this way, I shall undoubtedly be able to cross the ocean of nescience. So, Prahlad Maharaj learned from his spiritual master, Narada Muni, who is the son of Lord Brahma. So this is the disciplic succession that Prahlad Maharaj is a part of. So even Prahlad Maharaj, whom Lord Nrsimhadev personally came forth from the pillar to protect him, he still says, I shall follow in the disciplic succession. I shall follow the acharyas. He never thinks that he has gone over the acharyas. He's jumped over them. He still says, I shall follow exactly in the footsteps of Lord Brahma. So why is this? This is because this is the system that Krishna has established for the conditioned souls to return to him. So we're quite out of time. I'll make a final point, but I find it so interesting that we look at our acharyas and we see who they are. We've been talking about the Chaitanya Charitamrita these past few days, and as we know, all of them are eternal associates of Sri Krishna and Srimati Radharani. We see Ramananda Roy is Vishaka and Swarup Damodar, Lalita, and all of our acharyas, Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, Jiva Goswami. So who knows Krishna better than them? Who are we to try to understand the scriptures better than those who are his closest associates, those who are the dearest to him? So when we follow them, Krishna is very pleased, and Krishna gives us mercy through them. They actually give us the understanding by which we can come to Krishna. So we're over time. If anyone has any comments to share, Gokulananda Prabhu.
Wonderful class, Prabhuji. I must say you spoke right from the bottom of your heart. My heart was feeling ecstatic as you're speaking. The purport is also very powerful. The takeaway for me was the wonderful analogy that Prabhupada mentions in the purport, and you wonderfully mentioned. I wanted to ask you, who quoted "Embrace your insignificance"?
Her name is Yashamati Mataji, but I don't know where she heard it from.
Okay, that was wonderful. I was thinking of the other analogy, like when there is a gushing wind, the small blade of grass and other plants, they survive, but the big, huge trees, because they're not polite enough, so they just collapse. And one more thing I was thinking about was, since that is the context today, Lord Ganesha, right, in different Manvantara, in that particular pastime, he pleased Narasimhadev. In this particular Manvantara, it was Prahlad Maharaj. In that Manvantara, it was Ganesha was riding his carrier, and he just happened to, fell down from his carrier. That made Narasimhadev laugh, and he was pleased.
Thank you for bringing up that point. I don't know much about I think they call it Kalpa Veda. So essentially
Kalpa, not Manvantara.
Yeah, every kalpa, every time that these pastimes happen, there's something a little different. And the only thing I remember in regards to Lord Nrsingadev having different kalpa alterations, Jayapataka Maharaj, he was here giving class, and he said, in one kalpa, Hiranyakashipu sent spaceships to attack Lord Nrsingadev, and I think with his mane, he shook his mane, and it was whacking these spaceships out of the sky. But we can't grasp the depth of these pastimes, which are always fresh, always changing. And we can't conceive of these intergalactic fleets attacking Lord Nrsingadev. So, thank you. Any other final comments? Mother Tulsi Saki got nominated.
Hare Krishna, thank you, Prabhu. I was just appreciating how complete the verses and purports are for any neophyte devotee to understand our philosophy. So I was just appreciating in listening. Of course, there were very exalted speakers and speakers like you, but just the verses and purports are bringing out every aspect of our philosophy that we could potentially think of.
Right, yeah. These have been very nice verses and purport. So if there's no other comments, we can break for prasad. Oh, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Yeah, these last two verses, the purports of the verses, that leads me to think, even if somebody like Prahlad Maharaj, who is the topmost devotee of the Lord, if he is, asking for the Lord's blessings to take him out of this material existence. And he had enough with the material way of life. And despite being the topmost devotee, that reminds me how much work someone like me has to put in. Thank you.
Jai, thank you. A final point. Yeah, we are warming up to Nrsimha Chaturdasi. How amazing is that? I believe we probably would have finished this whole pastime, maybe just a few days, or perhaps even like through Nrsimha Chaturdasi. And many of the devotees here, their children are in the drama. Lots of us are in the drama, so we'll have a nice visualization of the past few months of Srimad Bhagavatam class. So, little advertisement out there. Jai. So, Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Vanchakopa Tubhyascha Kripa Sindhu.